budget ranhasi tiri kutaridza kuti mari inonetsa kunzoko, saka totsvake mari from within the country. Mari iyi inobva kubva muvanhu ichienda muhomwe yehurumende for purpose roads, madhemu nezvakadaro, nekuti mari iri kunetsa kunze kwese kwenyika. Saka the budget rine mataxes akati one day those taxes are there for purpose of developing an economy.
That's the Reserve Bank Governor, John Panonetsa Mangunja, speaking after the presentation of the 2024 budget in Parliament. There's something about our given names that almost dictates what our lives will be about. For example, Japraiser's given name is Mukudze Mukombe. From the moment his parents gave him that name, there was very little chance of him being anything else other than Mono Anechiremeria. Are you telling me no one thought, maybe let's not give a guy named Panonetsa keys to the country's central bank? Let's maybe try him out at the sports ministry where no one has any expectations. Today is not about him. Today is about this guy, Mthuli Ncube. Mthuli Ncube is like the Grim Reaper. Anytime he shows up, a few people's dreams, if not the people themselves, die. And now that elections are done, Mthuli is not hiding anything anymore. The government is broke. They need money to pay for the lipstick and makeup they used in the past 5 years, dressing up the country to make it look like things were happening. And guess where that money is going to come from? No, seriously, guess. That's right. It's coming from you. You might be thinking, I'm safe because I'm not formally employed. It's just me and my tuck shop. Well, Mthuli is coming for all Mseangwa and sons out there. Even Seventh-day Adventists are not safe. Mthuli wants to take away the sugar that has been keeping you within the light of the Lord. The budget statement delivered by Ncube Ncube is a dangerous and careless one. For starters, the figures are in Zim dollars. And yet that same budget carries evidence that the country is well on its way to dollarizing again. Every single figure that is in Zim dollars in that budget will need to be adjusted in 3 months or less to account for inflation. So who exactly are you trying to fool? Ladies and gentlemen, war vets and unfocused youth, welcome to another episode of Propaganda with Kandoro. They say nothing in this world is guaranteed except death and taxes. ZANU-PF heard that phrase and said, why not make it a 2-for-1 special? That's the only way I can explain what Mthuli Ncube is trying to do. Tax us to death. Do you guys remember that $300 that civil servants were now receiving as part of a COVID allowance? Well, Mthuli has made it such that part of that $300 can be taken as contribution towards pension, which in theory is a great initiative. But the reality is our government doesn't believe in pensions. So that's basically a subtraction that civil servants will never see again. It's like when we were kids and you would get money from relatives and then your mother would say, let me keep it for you. The tax-free threshold is now 750,000 Zim dollars per month. And I know exactly what you are thinking. How much is that? Tell me I'm wrong. The fact that all of us were thinking the exact same thing is exactly the problem. Because how are you presenting a budget with make-believe figures? Is this parliament or is it a magic show? But I'm going to indulge you, Mthuli, just to show you how ridiculous this tax threshold is. If you use the official interbank rate, 750,000 Zim dollars is just $129. Mthuli wants to collect income tax from anyone earning $129 and above. Mthuli is looking at anyone holding $100, saying, Yeah. But it gets worse. Because if you use the real rate, 750,000 Zim dollars is not more than 75 US dollars. I know a Ponzi scheme when I see one. A few months ago, major retailers like Pick n Pay and OK Zimbabwe spoke to the government about a variety of issues. Key amongst these issues was how they were struggling to keep up with the informal traders and still have to pay all the taxes and regulations that come with being a major retailer. But what the government got from that entire discussion was that there was someone else that owed them money. And being the people that they are, they fully intend on collecting that money. Mthuli's new proposal is that only traders registered for VAT with a valid tax clearance certificate can buy goods from manufacturers. Starting in January, registration for VAT will cost 25,000 US dollars or the local currency equivalent. Oh, so when it comes to certain figures, you know how to use US dollars. Interesting. Ncube's argument is that he wants to restore the supply chain from the manufacturer to the wholesaler to the retailer. But like Zimbabweans allegedly say when they see deodorant, I don't buy it. What is most likely to happen is that tax shops will go underground and try as best as they can to circumvent local manufacturers in this whole tax and VAT by getting basic goods from Zambia and South Africa. But it seems Mthuli also thought of that because he has removed basic goods from the duty-free list. But then again, what this means is that customs officers are going to see record figures in bribery. Like I said, Ponzi scheme. If it's any consolation to Om Seangwa and Sons out there, Mthuli doesn't just want your money. He wants everyone's money. He is proposing what he calls the minimum domestic top-up tax. And like the name suggests, it's a top-up. The MDTT allows the country hosting the multinational to collect top-up tax rather than the tax that is going to the headquarters of the company. If you are a lithium miner, who am I kidding? There are no lithium miners watching this. But in case I'm wrong, which I doubt because lithium miners are the ones who came up with this budget. If you're a lithium miner or want to become a lithium miner in Zimbabwe, your plans must now include installation of lithium carbonate converters and not just the construction of concentrator plants. No lithium licenses will be issued without this plan. I don't have the inclination to dig into the ramifications of this new policy. On paper, it sounds commendable because if implemented well in the long run, Zimbabwe will have more control over the production of lithium. But knowing ZANU-PF, nothing is ever as it seems. There is probably a gap that we are not seeing here somewhere. But best believe, Obed Mpofe has already seen it, allegedly. So let me focus on taxes that affect me and you, the unfocused youth. You might be watching this on your way to Bedbridge or Chirundu, where you will be collecting your brand new X-Jab. But I hate to be the bearer of bad news. You might have to sell that car just so you can afford the toll gates. Mthuli is proposing increasing toll fees from the current $2 to $5 on what he calls the premium roads. That means it's going to cost $50 from Harare to Bulawayo and back and $60 for a return trip to Bedbridge. Fuel is also going to be hit by what Mthuli calls the strategic reserve levy. I know for a fact that's a made-up phrase. But made up or not, what those two measures mean is that bus fare is most definitely going up. So a pensioner who usually travels from the rural areas to collect his $80 in Gweru or Harare at the end of the month is probably going to end up with $30 after all is said and done. The government was sick and tired of a certain award-winning journalist repeatedly saying he has a $600,000 house, and they sat down and thought, if you have a house that is worth over $100,000, US dollars. See, these US dollars keep popping up. If you have a house that is worth 100,000 US dollars, you're going to have to pay an annual 1% wealth tax. Not only is this stupid, but how are you going to enforce it? Who is going to handle the valuations? But more importantly, what is this money going to be used for? And no, you can't say it's going to be used for infrastructure development. That's a lie. If that was the case, then this entire conversation needs to be initiated by town councils, because those town councils know what those particular towns and suburbs need in terms of priority. If you have money in a vault or a deposit box, Mthuli wants to see it. And he's using the good old, people might be laundering money or committing crimes and hiding it. But let's call it what it is. That's theft. If you're going to be using Zimra to unilaterally open up people's safety deposit boxes, that's just theft. That's just theft. You can get away with offending Anamseyangwa and Sons, but I don't think you're going to want to offend people with safety deposit boxes. Do you? My Seventh-day Adventist people, we need to come together this December and drink as much Fanta as we can, because if Mthuli Ncube has his way, Fanta is not going to be Fanta come January. Mthuli wants to start charging a new tax on the sugar in your fizzy drinks. Apparently, this will discourage the consumption of high sugar content. Each drink will now come with a tax of 2 cents per gram of sugar. And yes, these cents are being measured in US dollars.
Surprise, surprise. Surprise, surprise.
The money will be used for therapy and procurement of cancer equipment and diagnosis. It was my hope that in this, the president's second term, we would get to see legacy building moves. We would see pro-poor policies taking shape. But if the Minister of Finance is hell-bent on creating beef with Delta beverages over the amount of sugar in a cherry plum, then we're not going anywhere as a country. We are not. And I genuinely wish I had more to add to this discussion, but I'm just as dumbfounded as you are. I genuinely hope both parties come together and vote against these incendiary proposals. Because how does a country that is losing its skilled workers in droves think, it's the perfect time to increase passport fees? How do you look at that as an opportunity to make money instead of addressing the core issues that is making these people leave? No, man. It's times like this that I'm reminded of the wise words of Mbuyane Anda. She said, if it looks like a budget but sounds and smells like a Ponzi scheme, then it's a Ponzi scheme, Zukuru. This has been another episode of Propaganda with Kandoro. Catch you guys in the next one.